Good morning. Um, I don't normally post on Saturdays, but I'm making an exception today for a number of reasons. First of all, I have been extremely sick the past week, and I want to do an update. And also, um, you saw in my last update, I have a relative that went into hospice, and I do want to uh, talk about some things for my cousin. I'd like to kind of, just discuss some things, pleasant things, for his benefit, and maybe make his day a little bit more pleasant. So, just as an update, I have been running a fever above 100.4 for several days. And I did have to have my primary doctor visit yesterday to get approved for surgery. So, other than the infection, my health is good and everything. The infection is a problem. So, I actually collapsed at the doctor's office, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified, because every movie, the cancer patient always dies of an infection. Um, you know, that's how they die. They don't die of not being able to eliminate the tumor, or what people actually die from cancer from. It's always because they got some random infection and died from it. And that was absolutely going through my head. And then, with what's going on with my cousin, that didn't help matters either. And I was freaking out at the doctor's office. They put me in a wheelchair because I was dizzy and everything, because it's an ear infection, um, which I could start seeing the little bubbles forming right here. Um, and so they put me in a wheelchair, and I spent the office visit in a wheelchair, and there were quite a few tests, like EKG, just a battery of different tests and stuff, to make sure that I'm fit to survive a surgery where they're going to gut me like a Thanksgiving turkey. And that kind of a thing. And so I have I have a really really good Cuban doctor, and my Spanish all came back to me. Her English is getting better too, and we were able to communicate really well. And I was telling her, exactly what was going on in my head and everything, that I was afraid of, because I saw movies. That's exactly what I told her. She said, "Don't think about movies. Movies are not correct." And she put me on antibiotics, and I did call my oncologist's office because they wanted me to go to a triage unit and check in the hospital. That was what they had instructed me to do. So I called them, and actually, they called me right after I got out of the doctor's office, and I said, she did put me on antibiotics. Do I still need to come in? And they said, you don't need to come in at this point, because you've already been treated for it. So that's what we would have done. So, take care of your tests and everything. So, that is what has been going on with me. Is I have some kind of a funky infection that has been causing my skin to bubble up and these little white bumps, and they're starting to go away now. So it was super painful when I was trying to sleep because it would press down on it and then wake me up. And it wasn't like constantly painful. I rated it a 4 out of 10 because while I was awake, it wasn't hurting. But as soon as I'd fall asleep, ooh, and it was like pushing against my port because my port goes up here. And I don't know what it was and stuff, but I'm supposed to be on them for another 6 days, so fun. And it's like 5 in the morning right now, so I've been sleeping since I got back from the doctor's office, which was like 2 in the afternoon, except when I woke up to take more antibiotics. Uh, so that's what's going on and stuff. So that's that part of the video, and now I want to talk about stuff from my cousin. So he said he's interested in history, and specifically history of Indonesia. So I did when the recession was going on in 2008 and 2009, well, 2009 specifically, because 2008 I was still working. 2009 I was working sporadically, and I was thinking maybe I ought to, and I don't know why I was thinking this, because I'm colorblind, but I had worked at the design center in San Francisco uh, before I worked for Marsh McLennan, and I really liked working there, and I was thinking maybe I ought to get a design degree. So I started taking design classes at City College in San Francisco, which was just a really strange kind of a thing to pursue. Actually, when I look back at it, it was just odd. But I started taking some architecture classes and design classes, and it's useful. If you don't know what you're going to take, it's not a bad thing to pursue. They can use that for things, pretty diverse things, like designing public transportation and designing offices and things like that. Is not a bad field to go into. But that was what I decided to take, was design classes. So one of my classes, the teacher looked at me and she goes, "I know exactly what I want you to write about." And she said, "I want you to write about batik." I was like, "Okay." My family has roots in Indonesia. I'll do that. And this was difficult. um, I lived near Chinatown, so I found a book about the history of batik, was the name of the book, and it was a very rare old book in the library in Chinatown in San Francisco. And this book was a gold mine. It was a history about our family, and my grandmother came from the Mataram family in Indonesia, and they ruled Indonesia for several hundred years. And my grandmother was a hertogin, is what my mother told me. And the word in English would be duchess, and the word that they use in Indonesia is Sri. I think that's more commonly used for men. And so her brother, I think, had that title. His name was Santos, I think. And he was, I think, he worked for the, he had a like a train station that he ran, if I understand it correctly. And that was kind of how he met my grandfather, and how they kind of paired my grandmother up with my grandfather. And there was a lot of intrigue about my grandmother running away from home, and because she was avoiding an arranged marriage. And so there was a lot of intrigue involved with that. And our parents were not happy about that. So there was a lot about that. And she was supposed to marry someone that she said was about 100 years old. He was actually about my age. And I did find his picture on Wikipedia. He was actually a sultan, and she would have been his fourth wife, I think. But he liked beetle nuts, I guess, and he had nasty teeth, and that was a deal breaker for her. So so that was kind of the background with my grandmother, and how my grandmother met my Dutch grandfather. And kind of going back, this this was a book I got for my mother, and it's a picture book. And these are relatives. They're in a royal family, and so I don't know if this book is available. I was kind of hoping to bring this over and show this to everyone. You know, and I got it when my mother passed away. I got it back. And there's pictures of Indonesia. And and Indonesia has a lot of islands, but Java is the biggest island, and that is the island that my grandmother was from. She was from central Java. And this is not the ideal way to show things on YouTube. Usually show photographs and you edit this. But I'm doing things more in a vlog way, so. My ancestors built Borobudur. And there's been more information that came to light with the DNA tests, is that we have Cambodian ancestry. And that's pretty solid. So there's a reason that Borobudur looks so much like Angkor Wat. It's because they were Cambodian. And that's kind of the mystery period of the Mataram family, is that they were in Cambodia in ruling from Angkor Wat, and then they moved over to Indonesia to kind of spread the empire around, and built Borobudur, and then they had some battles back and forth with the Majapahit dynasty, and it went back and forth. And then the Matarams got control, and by the 1500s, the Chinese merchants wanted to marry into the family. So the DNA does show that there's some Chinese DNA as well, and it's about half Chinese and half Cambodian. And that is the ancestry of the Mataram family. And in fact, the mitochondrial DNA originates from China, so that's actually where the women came from originally. So and here's some more pictures, and oh, can't show that. Palace. And so that's kind of the pre-Dutch arrival, and of course the Dutch wanted to fill Indonesia up with nutmeg. That was kind of their goal. And the Mataram family had its own goals, and the Mataram family wanted a monopoly on batik. So we were not exactly angels on that. And here is one of my ancestors. So I was looking for this guy. This is, let me see if I can pronounce his name. Sultan Jakarta Hamengku Buwana van Yogyakarta. Hamengku, okay. Yeah, that's one of them. In fact, I think we have photographs of Oma and Opa living in his house. So this guy was ferocious. But anyway, so my grandmother got his house. before World War II. And there's a minister of the Indonesian government that lives in that house now. But we have photographs of my grandparents in his house. So so the Mataram family had its own goals in monopolizing the batik trade, um, and it did not want unions forming in Indonesia, and it did not want competition. And that was the reason that Chinese merchants were allowed to marry into the family in the 1500s, was because under no circumstances was there allowed to be any kind of competition. That was a family-owned business for 1,000 years, and it was not. There were no competitors allowed from China, and there were no competitors allowed. There were no unions to be formed in the 1800s, and the family was elected into all kinds of parliament positions in Indonesia under the Dutch government, and they made sure they were elected into all the key positions to stop any kind of unions from forming. And every time that came up for vote, it was crushed. And then all the way up to the 1930s. And my mother was already born in the early 30s, and my mother was not aware of any of all that. That was my grandmother's family. They were very active in that. And so that's how they kept their hands on all the pies in that. And so, of course, to my cousin, your mother was already almost a teenager at that time. And when the Japanese came in, this was kind of the background of it. And we had a was a second cousin, I think, who was actually the Sultan. And he collaborated with the Japanese. And my aunt, my cousin's mother, was actually put as a teenager put in charge of the POWs of the camp at a very young age. She was 15 or 16 when they put her in charge, which was a lot of responsibility because, a child like that, if she did the wrong thing, they might be starved or beaten or whatever. She had to be very careful with how she did that. So they they put her in charge of that, and she had to work with the Japanese to address the prisoners' concerns, the prisoners of war. And that was a very delicate position to be put in. And she became very good at negotiating things. And that's just a horrible kind of a position to put a teenager in like that. But They did, and after the war, my aunt got a design degree. She actually did get one, and my second cousin, or whatever the relation was to that sultan, the people were feeling pretty feisty after the war, and they found him and they cut his head off. And my mother was the one that found the head on the doorstep. So that's what happened to war collaborators. Um, Matarams right now are not very well liked over in Indonesia. Probably because people remember all that stuff about the unions. But there's a long history and everything, and there would not be a batik industry in Indonesia if it were not for our family. You know, it's like saying, well, the Rockefeller family was rotten and everything like that. Yeah, they did bad things, but we wouldn't have an oil industry if it wasn't for that family, like it or not, you know. And our family did some bad stuff in Indonesia, but it's also, for one thing, we didn't do that. That was our ancestors that did that, you know. So, there's a lot of it's complicated and everything is, but I personally wouldn't do a lot of the things that those people did back in the 1800s. There's a lot of vicious behavior and everything, but it's that's how people operated back then. They had to be more ruthless because they were dealing with people who were ruthless back then. And you look at what's going on now in the United States is getting to be that kind of an environment again. So um, but that's kind of the history behind it, and we do actually have I don't know which family it is, but there are actually record keepers in Indonesia who have records of the volcano that split Java and Sumatra in half, which is mind blowing that somebody kept records going back that far, because that happened 1,500 years ago. So I didn't even know there were people living on the island back then. So that is a very long time ago. Our family goes back about a little over 1,000 years, because Angkor Wat was built around the 900s, I think. So this was, when you see videos of Angkor Wat, that castle goes back to about the same time as Charlemagne. So that they were contemporaries. So I'm going to upload this now, and I don't want to go outside my area of expertise, but that information came from the history of batik. And unfortunately, I don't remember who wrote that book. I do remember the name of the book, and that it was a very old book, and that I found it in the San Francisco library at the Chinatown branch. And the other book that I have is this book right here. Let's see. And I'm not being endorsed or anything like that. That's actually the history of my grandmother's family. And, you know, it's a little bit exotic. It's unusual. And so I hope that was something a little bit different than what you normally see. Yes, I'm in bed. And I'm going to go back to sleep after I finish this uploading this video. I'm not feeling good. I'm on antibiotics right now, so I'm actually going to take another one when I click upload. So have a good day, and it's always good to learn about your heritage. And I hope that my cousin is able to watch this and maybe have some enjoyment about it. I apologize that it's not in Dutch. My Dutch is not at a level that I could express what I learned. I talk like a little kid when I speak Dutch. I really do need to brush up on it. So, have a good day. I hope you have an enjoyable day, and I love you, and take care. Bye.